So my dad is very in touch with his feminine side, which is not to say that he's effeminate. In fact, he carries many of the typical male masculine traits, right? It's just that he relates to women mostly and more. See, when he was younger, his mother died and my grandfather married 2 other times. So he had 3 moms, 4 sisters, and then 2 daughters. Relating to females, what else was he gonna do? Right? And so when my sister and I were younger, these attempts at relating were very sweet, if not a little bit uncomfortable, because when I was a teenager, I was boy crazy. So he would try to talk to me about boys I liked and what we were doing together and fashion of the day maybe, and I would just be like, but it wasn't like these discussions were a means of trying to police my choices or anything. He wanted to bond with me. He wanted to be girlfriends. And if I were to have suggested a day spent painting each other's nails, he would have been all in, right? Just would have been like, where do we go? Yes. Now, I adore my father, so I didn't want to discourage any of this attempt at bonding, right? But I just wanted to sort of redirect it in a way that was a little less direct on me and embarrassing, right? I mean, what girl wants to invite her father into those hormonal urges and thoughts and weird things in your head? I certainly didn't. So since we both love movies and TV shows, I attempted to use pop culture and fictional characters as a proxy, right? Let's not talk about what's going on in my head. Let's talk about Ross and Rachel and what they're dealing with. It's a lot of stuff, So this worked for a while. This redirect worked for a great long while until the mother lode of all female-centric shows hit the airwaves, Sex and the City. And once that hit the airwaves, when that show was in its heyday, I was a single girl in the city, and that show spoke to me. You know, I really related to the characters, and it was so thrilling to see a female, a narrative about females who were embracing their independence and their sexuality and their friendships and themselves. You know who else that show spoke to? You guessed it, my dad. Every Sunday, I would jump on the phone with him and my stepmother, and we would talk about the girls. They were friends of ours. So he would say things to me like, Jenny, did you see that one of Samantha where, she thinks she's finally met a man she can fall for, but then he has a little thingy? Or did you see that one where Carrie farts in bed with Big? Or how about the funky spunk? Now, my stepmother would chime in and say, Eddie, that's your daughter. You know you're talking to your daughter, right? And he'd say, oh, she doesn't care. And I'd say, I actually do. This is very uncomfortable for me. Now, this went on. These conversations went on. And during Christmas, when the show was on, we were making sort of gift suggestions, my family and I, to each other. Oh, what do you want this year? What do you want? And this year, I just could not think of anything, right? I was just sort of like, I don't know. And so my dad and stepmom were brainstorming with me. Hey, maybe like slippers. And I was like, no, I don't need anything like CDs. No, I don't need anything like that. And then all of a sudden, my dad goes, I got it. What? Sex and the City clothes. It's like, what do Sex and the City clothes even mean to my then 60-or-something-year-old father? What does that even mean? I was like, what? And he said, Sex and the City clothes to go out in. It'll be great. We'll get you Sex and the City clothes. I was like, no, that's okay. I don't like clothes. Clothes are awful. I don't like them at all. I'm trying to be minimalist now. And like, no, that's what we're getting you. And so once that declaration was made, I had about a month until Christmas Day, and I was sort of like, oh my God, what is this gonna be? And I was sort of 1 part curious and 2 parts anxious, and my younger sister, was like 3 parts all into it. She would call me in the lead up to, Christmas Day and be like, you excited about your Sex and the City clothes? I know I am. So psyched. So the day comes, right? It's Christmas. My dad and my stepmom were like pushing this box towards me, and they're like very excited, you could tell. And I'm like, starting to open it, careful not to look at my sister, and I'm starting to think, like, who in this moment, like, who do they think I am in this scenario, right? Am I like the oversexed Samantha, or, the more demure Charlotte? Am I the no-nonsense Miranda, or the quirky Carrie? And I open and I see that the box is from Talbot's. Which, nothing wrong with Talbot's, but it really speaks more like Madeleine Albright. It's really sexy Madeleine Albright. It was like all black and didn't have much of a waist and sort of went down to my, like mid-calves. It's just not very Sex in the City, right? But in retrospect, I sort of think, what if they would have gotten me something super, super slinky? I'm not sure I would have felt good about that. So I was like sort of relieved. Now, soon after that, the series was ending, and my dad got very sick, and he almost died. And while he was in the hospital, he, of course, said, "Can you make sure you tape that last episode of Sex in the City for me?" Like, I was like, "Dad, just, mind your health, okay?" But yes, I will. And so I did, and then flew home after he got out of the hospital, and we sat down and watched it. And of all the, I said feminine traits, my dad has, one on the very opposite side was that I'd never really ever seen him cry. He rarely cried. And so as we watched that last episode where Big flies into Paris to sweep Carrie off her feet and take her back to New York City, back to her, girlfriends, her true loves, I look over at my dad, and he's got tears streaming down his face. And I grab his hand, just, so glad that he's still here, right? So he recovered pretty quickly and in time to see the movie premiere for Sex and the City. So you got to have something to live for. And so when that, he lives in Cleveland, my sister and I live here, and so when, the date of the movie premiere was coming out, he said to my sister and I, "You guys need to reserve tickets. We're coming up for the show. You need to reserve tickets at the Georgetown Theater and, do this." And we were like, "Oh, okay." Wasn't surprising to us at that point, right? But I don't know if you remember, it was such an event when that first movie premiere came out. Like, women were, putting on parties and pre-parties and let's dress up and go to the movie. And, I was getting all these invites from girlfriends, and I was like, "I'm sorry, I wish I could go with you, but I promised my dad I would see it with him." So you understand. So we go to the movie, and my dad's like maybe one of 3 men in there, and he loves it, and makes us go out for Cosmos afterwards to discuss it. Of course. Now, all of this is to say that I'm not fighting it anymore. If my dad wants to talk to me about lady stuff all the time, have at it, Dad. Like, you're still here, right? So I can say this loud and proud now. Dad, you're always going to be one of my best girlfriends. We can get Cosmos anytime. Thank you.